Yeah, I want to get into in general how controlled opposition works because I see this stuff going on with the truther movement, whatever you want to call that, and I can tell you, I probably decades ago I knew a lot of things about what was really going on, with the conspiracy theories or whatever, but basically who the real movers and shakers were behind what really happens in the world. I could say that probably from decades ago. Nothing's really new about the fiat currency, the Federal Reserve, how wars are started. But I want to get into how controlled opposition works because that's always been a classic strategy of communists, if you want to put it that way. But it's a classic strategy in a lot of different ways. It could be in the military, it could be in the financial world, or anything. What you will get with controlled opposition is, say, for its informational purposes or whatever, or say with different disinformation, you'll get 90% truth. It's 90% truth. You will not. But there are specific stated goals that they want you to do. That is where the 10% will be wrong. It's like you can't. And a lot of people think they can sift through something and see what the truth is, and I think they really can't. But to give you some more classic extreme examples of controlled opposition or false opposition or people that are working within the community that's opposed to the establishment or whatever. If you look back in the Soviet Union times when communism, hated the Christian Orthodox Church because it was in competition with, the communist regime. They wanted to rule everybody, mind, body, and spirit in totality, right? They didn't like the competition from the church. They considered it like the opiate of the people, as Lenin called it, right? Well, if what they would do is like there'd be underground churches and there'd be an informant in there. But so when the KGB came in there and they found out who it was, they'd be beating everybody up and all this kind of crap, and they'd probably kill some people or whatever they'd be doing before they sent them off to education camps, and they would actually beat up the informant too, so you wouldn't know who that person was because you could say oh, I was a victim, I got clobbered too. So basically, a lot of people don't think when disinformation is thrown out there, it's that they will go to that kind of length. Now, in the case of the truther movement, um, there's a lot of stuff that's out there that's but some of the stuff's been like freaking this way since like the dawn of time. There's always been an elite. There's always been power hungry jackasses that want more at the expense of everybody else and all this type of stuff. And there's a lot of people out there just making a lot of money off of putting the truth out there, right? I mean, they're basically in with the whole damn deal. Um, but just like a lot of things, even in the financial world, if you say you're putting some gems out there, you're putting a lot of information out there. Say you wanted somebody to bite into an investment. Well, you could put out a lot of inside privy information about something, and hey, that's all true, it's verifiable. But then they want you to do this one specific thing, and they give you a whole bunch of stuff why it looks good, and all that information is verifiable and it's correct. But that one specific thing they have you targeted to do will be wrong. You know. So I mean, that's really how a lot of things really are. It's disinformation and false opposition. And that's really how people on the top retain control better than anything. Because once the people they're putting screws to, they're bleeding dry, they start figuring out what's, hey, what's going on here. That's when they start opposing the guys on the top who got the rackets. And the best way to oppose them, the best way to stifle that opposition is to actually lead the opposition itself. Classic phrase from Lenin. But it's done in pretty much everything there is. And this kind of strategy is like applied to everything. It's whether it's finance, politics, or war. I mean, if you take the situation with classic war strategy, they always had, the double envelopment. Like lead the enemy to believe that it's classic stuff. If the center is falling apart, the weak center is falling apart. Oh, we're winning, we're going forward, and they're being led into a trap. Same thing, same thing. So my contention is, though, pretty much anybody you see in the alternative media that is making extremely good money and they have a lot of subscribers or they have a lot of viewers, I don't think they're legit. I don't think they're legit, to tell you the truth. It's like the truth is actually going to come out from a lot of different small individual efforts. That's really how the truth is going to come out. I've been a major critic of David Icke. I don't even get into because I think that guy is so far off the cliff with his lizard people and shit. It's amazing that I can't believe that people even follow what this guy says. But I've been a critic of Alex Jones, Koresh, and things like that. And just people just buy into it no matter what. But there is, an elitist conspiracy, and there always has been, and that's just how it is. I mean, there's people there's some people are more ambitious than others, and they try to gravitate to get to the claw to the top, and they want to, basically screw everybody else over and have rackets that are basically pumping money into what they have. That's how it is. You know, but the thing is, a lot of people just don't see the deal with the false opposition. That's the thing. And I guess the best way I can also look at it is, if you're trying to catch a fish, not that I fish or anything, but you want to put a lot of bait, around that hook. The fish got to, bite, so you might give somebody 90% good information and they think they figured out what the 10% bad information is. They don't. So, my contention is, though, at all times, like if somebody really, really is pissing off the elite, they're going to get them out of the way. And my other contention is that not all the elite are bad. If somebody's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, somebody attended a Bilderberg meeting, somebody is in a major media in the New York Times or the Washington Post, it does not necessarily mean they're like the evil person. I don't buy into that crap all the time. They could be, they may not be. But if you start pissing off, I want to put it this way: the elite are the money guys, the guys with the most money. The people like, say, for instance, if you're in the Federal Reserve, you just, you got a racket because you get interest by, basically creating money and the government has to pay you. Or, in the oil industry, they hate hemp, they hate industrial hemp because, so they'll try to keep that product out of the public as much as possible, try to make it as legal as possible, as much as possible. If you really piss off the elite, you're dead. You're dead meat. You're not going to be going around, making millions of dollars for years and just, everything's hunky-dory, everything's fine. You got all kinds of advertisers and shit. You're not going to be doing that kind of game. You're part of the scam. You got to be. And if you're not directly part of the scam, you're playing it indirectly because you understand the game. It's like a lot of these guys that are in alternative media. I could put the example out there, Alex Jones. He might not be paid by the government or the CIA, but he knows how to play the game. He's playing the game exactly correct, where he's not overstepping any bounds at all. You want to hear? I'll give you an example of a guy that did overstep bounds, in my opinion. It was something. It was Matt Simmons when he blew the whistle on BP in the Gulf oil spill. He's pissing off some money there. He was saying that they were showing the riser on the television, and that there was actually this big gusher coming out of the ground. Use a little common sense. All that oil didn't come out of that little riser. And me not know nothing about the oil industry, I can tell you right now, that's like it plain common sense. The whole Gulf was full of oil. The way they stopped that oil spill, I think, when that storm came in and they pulled all the ships away, I think they actually did they used an underground nuke, like Russia was suggesting, to stop that well. But if they would have told the public that, you would have had mass panic. You would have had people on YouTube making videos how the Illuminati are trying to kill off the whole freaking Gulf states, and they would have been making millions of dollars off it because the freaking giddy minds just eating that up to the max. But Matt Simmons, I think, was an example of a guy that was killed because he was actually hurting him. He actually exposed some stuff. It's and I know the story is it's not. I don't believe it though. I mean, I think they caused this. He supposedly just had a heart attack in his hot tub. That's how he died. So, if somebody like big in the alternative media is really pissing somebody off, look at what happened with Michael Hastings, right? I mean, his family said, I don't know if he, it's what his family thinks, but there's people out there think that was just an accident. I don't think so. That's what happens if you're really pissing them off. So if you're out there and you're multimillionaire and you got this alternative media and you're exposing the New World Order, that don't add up, pal. That don't add up. So anyway, I guess the best way to do it is to have too many different people doing it. That's really the best way, because it's like, it's like if you're putting out information about what's really going on and there's too many different people doing it, then it's going to be difficult to deal. The elite just can't freaking deal with that. But, they want big voices out there that have a lot of audience, because what's going to happen in that case, of the people that are waking up, most of them are going to go to that one source. And guess what? They're going to get, the hook is going to be in there. That 10% of garbage where they want you to believe something and freaking mislead you, that's going to be in there. So that's how it works, man. So it's always worked like this. But that's the whole reason in the United States, supposedly, we've had this individual rights, because everybody can speak their own mind. So I just want to put this out here about disinformation, misleading information, and basically how people, even in the alternative media, are being misled. That really is a fact. I don't think anybody in the alternative media that is way up there, they're they're just playing the game. They cater to a certain audience, and that's all they do. And me, I piss everybody off. So, but that's just how I do it, man. That's just how I do it. You know, I mean, I could piss off a conservative, a liberal, whatever, libertarian, because I don't, I actually say the truth exactly how I see it. That's the difference, man. So, and if I actually got big, I don't know. I'm going to have to hide. I know that.